Says we're live.
Yes, Andy, we are live. I am super excited that we are live now. So I will give people a couple minutes to start jumping on. And let's see here as we get started. So for those of you jumping on right now, I know probably some people, this is part of their commute. They'll be listening to us.
Yeah. Keep it safe, folks. Keep it safe.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be cool. So as people are jumping on, I will start by just sharing a little bit about how we met. And it's such a cool thing. It's always like, we hear this thing about how when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And, for all the women that are listening to this, either live or, later on the replay, it's so important to know that, how true that is, because I came to you at a time on my own journey where it was really important to get my diet right. It was really, really important. And you played an incredibly important role on my own fertility journey. And then, into my pregnancy, through the full term of my pregnancy. And then even today, like
Still
that's
going.
the coolest thing ever
It's
is
still
that,
going.
yeah, I mean, Andy, you were there with me during the writing of my books and everything. So I hope that as women are hearing this, you're really getting the importance of how critical it is to have a team supporting you through all stages on the journey to motherhood, as well as during your pregnancy, after your healthy pregnancy, and into motherhood, because it does not slow down.
No, you got to have a tribe.
Yeah.
You got to have a tribe, because nobody does this on their own.
No.
Yeah.
There are
many
tribe.
Yeah,
there are many people that support this whole process. So welcome, and welcome to all the ladies that are jumping on. I think I see you. Is that Tania? Oh, and Juliet. Oh my goodness. It's so good to see you too. So as we get started, Andy, to kind of frame this, I mean, you know how this goes, because we've done a podcast together, and, so many of my ladies get to meet you that way. But one of the most frustrating things on this journey is starting to, feel overwhelmed by, what am I supposed to eat? There's like all of these, you Google fertility diet, and there's like 75 articles that come up on the first page, and they're all, some things contradict each other. And so the point of me bringing you on today and introducing you to these ladies is to begin to untangle that mess, because what could be a really joyful, fun time, and as you prepare to have a baby, can turn into a nightmare. And it can be so overwhelming, because I love telling this story. I was so afraid that I had gotten some advice that I could have a cookie, but I just couldn't eat the chocolate chip in the cookie. So if I had a chocolate chip cookie, I would find myself eating around the chocolate chip. And it's like, what are you doing? You can have the cookie, but you can't have the chocolate chip in that. So I share that because that's how crazy we can get.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a real service to the women out here to have you come on and really help us untangle the mess when it comes to fertility nutrition. So my loves, this is Andy Mayhew. He was a part of my journey. He's a part of my life today. So take it away, Andy. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you, Rosanne. And I appreciate you having me on. It's always good to rap with you on this stuff.
Yeah.
I love talking about food. And I'm here to say first that I'm no different than anybody else. Look, we're all addicted to food. We're all food junkies. If we weren't, we wouldn't be alive. This is the one addiction that you cannot stop. And that's what makes it the most challenging one, is that, let's say somebody, they get an alcohol addiction. Well, you can stop going to the bar. You can't stop going to the grocery store. You got to go get food every day. You're going to be feeding yourself. And that's where the paradox kind of comes in. And so that interests me. I've always been a guy that liked to know how things worked. I like working on cars. I like building houses and construction and tinkering with things. And the body was just another thing that I wanted to figure out how it worked. I didn't understand it. I didn't know it. I had one biology class in high school, and that was about it. And so I got into nutrition because I kind of went on my own personal journey with my own health issues. I started to heal those and said, well, if I would have had information, I could have done this earlier. If I would have had my tribe, if I would have had help, I could have done this earlier. And I'm a fixer. My wife calls me a fixer. You're a fixer. You're always trying to fix things. And I said, okay, well, let's find something that I can put that to use for. So it's gone to use here. But that being said, I also love food, and I like playing with food and being creative and not letting it kind of like take over my life. I try not to bring my work home with me and be like the drill sergeant at home with nutrition. I have done that a little bit, but I try to make it fun. And that's what I want everybody here to start thinking about is how can you bring fun back to your food?
Oh my gosh, Andy, are you serious? Food can be fun?
Oh, absolutely. It should be. If it's not, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. Okay, it's something you
talked
do
me
every
off the
day.
ledge. Yeah, you've talked me off the ledge on more than a few occasions. So yeah.
I've talked myself off the ledge on a few occasions. I go to the same thing that everybody else on this call goes through on a daily basis. And it's this thing that we are the best salesmen for ourselves. We can talk ourselves into anything.
This is true.
We can justify any decision known to human beings. And so it's trying to build a framework for yourself where you say, okay, I'm going to let these things in from time to time. I'm not going to let these things in, but I'm going to give myself some food freedom so that I don't feel so constrained. I don't feel so restricted and like balled up and, worried and anxiety around your diet and your food. You want good information. You want to know how to feed yourself properly, you, your family, your children, but you don't want it to cause stress because then that's counterproductive.
I love, that's so true because when I think about when I first started on my journey and I went on these like extreme, hardcore fertility diets, like joyless, like pleasureless diets. Like I think I went an entire year just eating in it's almost like my food was like hospital food. Like it was just tasteless. It was the same thing, like so much repetition. So what you're saying is we can actually do fertility diets differently.
Yes, for sure. Well, look, women have been getting pregnant without a fertility diet for eons. If they weren't, we would not be here.
Good point.
So it's like women can get pregnant when in times of famine, in times of cold, in times of stress. Now that might not be the optimal place. And for women that are having challenges getting pregnant, you do want to start looking at, in between the cracks and saying, okay, maybe there's some things I'm missing here. But, this whole fertility diet thing, really to me, what it is okay, let's lower inflammation, let's support digestion, and let's tell the body that this is a good place to get pregnant. That's like the three tenets of like how I approach, trying to put a woman's body in an environment that tells the body, tells that innate system, that intuition, that this is a good time to get pregnant.
Will you say those three things again? That's like so good. I love that.
Yeah, it's lower inflammation, support digestion, and then show the body that there are resources around so that it's a good time that you can get pregnant.
Love it. Love it. I mean, doesn't that just sound like so much less stress?
Yeah,
let me get my inflammation down. Let me support my digestion, and let me create a healthy environment.
Yeah. Wow. That's that because our current lifestyle, the environment that we all live in right now, is very unhealthy towards human beings. It's not. We are the mouse in the scientific study right now. We're on the wheel, and somebody up there is looking at us, going, "Okay, are they going to die or are they going to live? Let's see how long they live for." Because we're not doing anything that relates to human health really right now. We're like extremely stressed. We're on phones and screens all day long. we're feeding ourselves this Franken food. We're running around like chickens with our heads cut off. We're full of stress. We're balled up. We're sitting down. We're not moving. The list kind of goes on and on and on. And that's not to say that, okay, you got to go back to utopia and go live in the woods. That's not going to happen either. We got to be realistic.
Right.
So,
right.
Okay, with the current diet we're in, how do we buffer that? How do we support our lifestyle so that inflammation is down, digestion is supported, and the environment says healthy for a baby?
Wow. So let's talk about, let's say that, because I come into contact with women in many different stages of their journey. So let's talk about two primary ones. Let's say a woman beginning on her journey and is starting to become overwhelmed. We'll start there, and then we'll go to the woman who's been on this journey for a minute and is like, I'm on this diet and this sucks, like what can I do differently? And this is like the women that I work with, it's never about the willingness. They're always willing and they'll do anything, but it's more of a question of how can this be done intelligently? So let's start off with the woman that's just beginning. What are some of the things a woman who's beginning her journey and beginning to explore this whole question of nutrition, how she can support her fertility with that?
Okay. First and foremost, do a gut check with yourself. So, women's intuition is a real thing. The gut has an innate wisdom to it. So gut check the things you're worried about, gut check your decisions. Does this feel right? Because as a woman, you have generations, thousands of years of generations of intuition that's been passed down to you from your mother, from mother to mother for centuries. That intuition is what got us through to survive, to bring on, the next year. And that has been forgotten because now we rely on what? We rely on doctors to tell us everything about our health. We rely on the news to tell us about our world. We rely on outside information and we forgot about our gut, our intuition. So, give yourself a little bit of benefit of the doubt that, yeah, you can handle this. I think you know what to do. And if it doesn't feel right, then second guess it. So that, just starting off. And then, when it comes to nutrition, start looking at your diet, because in the end, we all kind of know what a healthy diet looks like and what a non-healthy diet looks like. And to me, there are some specifics about like a quote unquote fertility style of eating, but it's really similar to what I'm telling most people to do. It's, don't be dumb. It's like,
if I'm holding a can of Spam and asking you if this is going to help my fertility, just drop it.
It's like donuts. Okay. Yeah, probably not, so just be realistic with yourself, be mature about yourself. We all have that inner child in ourselves that's still there driving our decisions on a daily basis. We have to put that kid in its place. So be mature about your diet and what you choose to put in your body. Because look, right now you may be trying to get pregnant, but you're also trying to be a healthy person for the rest of your life. So what you eat today becomes a brain cell for the next 2 years.
Whoa. Okay, so ladies, you better listen up. Listen up, loves, because
so just starting out, just start thinking about stuff like that. I'm not trying to, do like scare tactics here. But I think if we all pay attention to what we're eating and just kind of look at on a daily basis what we're putting in our bodies, what we're feeding ourselves, it's like you wouldn't hang out with somebody who was a jerk that just yelled and screamed at you all day and cussed at you and berated you and said your mother's fat and stuff like that. You're not going to do that.
Right.
That's bad mojo. Well, why would you put bad mojo in your body? You wouldn't hang out with somebody that's bad mojo.
Dropping bombs. See, I love that. That's two really important points that you made. That I want to make sure that the ladies are listening to very carefully, is to be mature about your diet. Like, I have never heard anyone say that in that way. To be aware of your own inner child, that you could be making decisions from the 4-year-old that knew a story of lack and scarcity, or maybe food was scarce and so you have to clean your plate even when you're not hungry, or the part of you that wants to make decisions, that wants the fruity pebbles, or or the blueberry or the frankenberry stuff, like that kind of stuff, to just be mature about that.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people where food, and this is true for most of us, is food is comfort. It's comfort to us. And they've been in situations as a child that was very dysfunctional, but food was like, it was a reprieve from that dysfunction. And they would share that maybe with like a parent or a sibling or something like that. And it'd be kind of this little space that was safe. And imagine a person that grew up like that, what their outlook is and what the perception is of, let's say, cookies or something like that. It's like, this means a whole lot more than just a cookie to that person.
it's a reward.
It's a reward. It's safety. It's getting away from danger. I mean, there's all these kind of things that kind of come into play around the psychology of what we eat and when we eat it, and so there's a lot that goes into this kind of stuff. And so for the person starting out on their journey, just kind of sit down with yourself and just kind of have a real talk about what you're going to allow and what you're not going to allow, because the doctors are going to run you through a ringer. It's going to be very cold and very strict and rigid and scheduled. The last thing you need to do is transfer all that dogma to your diet.
I love that. The dogma-free diet.
There you go. Yeah.
I love that. So what you're talking about really here is that for women, as you're beginning your journey to really get conscious to how you're going to eat, and understand that there could be aspects of your journey that are very rigid, but when it comes to your diet, be open to the idea that this doesn't have to be so strict.
Yeah. As I have a pretty restrictive diet if you ask certain people, but to me, it's a diet of abundance because of the way I look at it, and because I love food and I like being creative and I like seeking out new ingredients, and I've learned to work with what I can, because everybody is different. You are different. I'm different. We all have different needs. Our body has different needs at certain different times as well. And, knowing that, then you kind of go into this whole thing with a mindset of abundance as opposed to a mindset of scarcity. Like, they're going to take away all these things from me. I can't have sugar. I can't have chocolate. I can't have cake. I can't have champagne. I can't have my wine. It's like all these I can't haves. And what does that do to a person's psyche? It just makes them nervous as hell. And you just feel deprived and like you're in jail. That's not creating the environment that says, oh, this is a good place to have a baby. No, that's creating an environment of stress and pain
and deprivation.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And now, look, I'm not saying, hey, go out and party, like, go do your thing, have fun. It's like, there's a time and a place for that. But just kind of be mature with your diet. Most people can do a pretty good job at cleaning things up just on a general level of just what they're putting in their body. It's really easy to overconsume sugar and processed foods and simple carbohydrates. It's ubiquitous in our society. It's it's everywhere. And so it's easy, it's convenient.
So what are some of the things that, a woman might look to who's starting out? Like, obviously everybody's different, but there's some basic rules of thumb to consider? Like you said, eliminate processed foods
as much as you can.
And then sugar.
Yeah, sugar. Well, let's start with processed foods. If you look, kind of get used to looking at the ingredient label on your foods. You know what you're going to put in your body. If you look at the ingredient label of anything you're going to put in your body, and there's an ingredient on there that you don't know what it is, you probably shouldn't eat it.
You
or at
mean like
least, or at least,
polysyllabic things?
yeah, I mean, or at least look it up. I mean, like mono and diglycerides. Do you know what that is? Well, actually, it's trans fat, but they don't have to say trans fat. But we all know that trans fat is bad, but you see, it'll say zero trans fat on something, but it will have mono and diglycerides in it. Well, that's concentrated trans fat is all it is.
So they do a little bit of some wordsmithing there.
Oh, look here, Rosanne. Food is the biggest business in the world. It's bigger than energy. It's bigger than medical healthcare. It's the biggest business in the world, and money drives it. So it's all about a bottom line. I used to work for a food company for 12 years, and I got well versed in the whole food is a business idea. It's bottom line. I don't care if you're shopping at Best Buy or if it's Costco or if it's Whole Foods. It's all about a dollar. And it's all about bottom line. There's bean counters looking at this stuff saying, how can we make money? And some people cater to people who are looking for health, like for Whole Foods. And some people cater to people who are looking for a bargain, like Food Max. It's just kind of like that. So yeah, learn to look at the ingredient labels on boxes and try to eat less processed foods. That means you're going to be cooking a little more at your house. So for a person who's just starting off on this journey, you have to start looking at the organization of your day. Now, I'm not saying you need to spend hours and hours in the kitchen, but if you're not allocating enough time, or maybe not even time at all in the kitchen on a daily basis, then you're not setting yourself up for success. You have to take control of this journey for yourself. And one of the best things you can take control of, because there's a lot of things that are going to be out of your control. A lot of the medical stuff is out of your control. It's in the hands of the doctors. You have control over your diet, though. You have control over your sleep. You have control over your stress level for up to a certain amount, and your exercise. And control the things you can control, and let the rest, just give it away to the people who are experts about that kind of stuff. So just try to, reduce processed foods as much as you can, because it's not in a natural form. I could write out on paper a perfect diet and put it in a bottle for somebody. If I just wrote out how many, milligrams and grams of each nutrient that you would need and put it in a pill form. And if you took that pill, do you think you'd be healthy? Hell no, because it's not whole foods that came out of the earth. Mother Nature figured this stuff out way long before the medical, model came in here. So reduce processed foods as much as you can. And that means taking control of the food that you eat.
So, and when we say processed foods, I mean, like, I remember when we were working on my diet, and even still as we work on my diet, and as my needs change and things like that, it's really about the whole food.
Yeah. Food that looks like it did when it came out of the dirt, off the hoof, out of the water, off the pasture. It's like, you can look at it and go, I know what that is. That's broccoli. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can walk around in the grocery store and you can name what it is. Like, my kids can name all the stuff that's real food in a grocery store. But you walk along, it's basically shopping the perimeter of the grocery store, and then, a few things from the center aisles, but not much.
Oh, that's right, because they have a strategy in the grocery store.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I don't know if these ladies know that. That might be an interesting little fact.
Yeah, they want you to walk down the aisles to get to places, because they have a higher margin on a lot of the stuff in the center aisles than they do on the perimeter. It costs a lot for them to run, like, let's say, a butcher department or even a produce department. There's a lot of waste. There's a lot of shrink. The deli does pretty good. They have a pretty good markup on the prepared foods, but the center aisles is where they tear it up, because they get
and
a higher
that's
markup.
where all the processed stuff
That's where all the processed stuff is. Yeah. Even a grocery store, I mean, again, it's about bottom line. There's better grocery stores than others, but it's still about, earning a dollar. And I don't think that people shouldn't make money. I believe in capitalism to a certain point, but just inform yourself. Just know what you're putting in your body. And so, yeah, it's like things in a box that are like already made for you. I mean, mashed potatoes from, Trader Joe's even is like, well, look at the ingredients. Is it just potatoes in there, or are there other things? Maybe there is. Maybe it's something you don't want to put in your body. Maybe it's fine. but at least you should know and make an informed decision.
Wow. So shop the perimeters, ladies, and read labels.
Shop
I
the
mean,
perimeters, read labels.
that's actually pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah. None of this stuff is really rocket science. It's not. It's pretty simple stuff that is simple in in the plan, but the execution is a little tougher because then you get into the whole mental side of things and the whole psychology of eating and the psychology of inclusion, in your tribe, in your people, in your customs, in your ways.
Mm-hmm.
I work with a lot of people where it's like the style of eating that I'm teaching them flies in the face a bit from their customs and their traditions of their culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to kind of wrap their head around that, but it's just, I think most people know, what's healthy and kind of what's not. And that's like the basic tenet.
Well, so let's talk about, like, let's say a woman's been on this journey for a couple years and, is in a position where she's like, oh my God, I'm really getting kind of tired. I've got journey fatigue. I've got some fatigue when it comes to, the having extreme rigidity in my diet. Like I think we may have talked about this offline at some point, but I had a client and she had her baby, which was great. She ended up getting pregnant naturally, but she wouldn't even eat on her anniversary. She and her husband went out to dinner and she had like 20 questions to ask the restaurant before she even walked through the door, and wouldn't eat cake to celebrate her anniversary. So that is how oppressive, because she was terrorized that it was her diet that was keeping her from getting pregnant.
Look, unless you have, like a diagnosis of, let's say, celiac disease or something like that, or that when you eat wheat, it just really jacks you up. You're just, you're kind of going off of an assumption there that if you eat, let's say, a piece of cake for your anniversary, it's going to ruin your chances of getting pregnant. I don't believe that in my book. It's just my belief system does not follow something that says one food at one time is going to do anything to anybody's, overall health, other than the fact of, let's say, if they had like an allergy to that food or something like that. But yeah, you're right. I think for the woman that's been on this journey for a while, it's going back and doing a gut check about the stuff I talked about when you're going on this journey. It's like, how do I feel about my food? Do I feel like I have freedom around my food? Am I having fun with my food? Do I enjoy being in the kitchen, or does it feel like a chore to me? Would I rather just not eat if I, rather just not be hungry? Or do I look forward to the meals that I have? Like when I make the kids lunch, for school the next day, or I'm making them breakfast the night before, to me, that's like fun. It's like what I do at night after they go to sleep, because it's like I can get in the kitchen and be creative. How could I do this like in a fun way and then make them have smiles and be happy and stuff? So you gotta enjoy yourself. You gotta enjoy life. Look, you're on a journey. You want to either start a family or add to your family. That's great, but you also got to consider yourself. You're a person.
Imagine
Yeah, no
that.
kidding, right? If you don't teach yourself to care about yourself now, you're going to have a hell of a time when your kid comes.
Yes, amen to that. And ladies, you need to know that Andy in his household is surrounded by women.
Yeah.
You have 2 daughters and a wife, so you get this.
Yeah, I mean, I see the mommy syndrome. It's like, take care of everybody except for yourself. And that never stops. I am blessed to have my mother here with me still. And she's still, I'm her baby to her still. It's like, that never goes away, so you gotta be able to take care of yourself, make sure you're doing self-care, and then look at what you're doing. If you've been on this journey for a while and you're eating a certain way and it's really frustrating and nothing's going your way, then do a gut check on what you're doing. Say, what feels right here? What feels wrong here? Maybe loosen up a little bit on what you're doing. And that doesn't mean that you still aren't doing something that could be working against you. But if you never question it, how are you going to know?
Right. It's such a refreshing thing to hear that, because, it's there is that vitamin J, that vitamin joy that I think we're super deficient in when it comes to this journey. And I remember, like, before we conceived Asher, like, I was eating unpasteurized cheese, Andy. I was, on the French countryside and in Italy, and eating all kinds of gluten. I mean, I was doing the exact opposite of what they tell you, which I'm not suggesting is right for anybody. It was, I think what that brought up in me was a real sense of being alive and a real sense of joy and freedom, which is what we're talking about here, was that I had lived in deprivation for so long and in constant fear that, of what I was eating, that when I finally let loose, and I mean, I'd been working on so many other things in the background, which was a, massive mindset shift. But I think there's really something to that. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. Stress is such a big player in our health on a day-to-day basis, that I think we need to focus on it a lot more. When we're chronically stressed, then that keeps the gas pedal on our adrenal glands to keep pushing out cortisol all day long. That creates low-level inflammation in your body on a constant basis. It also raises your blood sugar up. So somebody who is very stressed can go to bed. Let's say there's somebody who's, maybe like pre-diabetic or they're diabetic. And so they're checking their blood sugar kind of like on a consistent basis. You can check your blood sugar at night. You've already eaten and get a certain reading. Go to bed, wake up with a higher blood sugar than when you went to sleep. And you've been fasting the whole time.
Whoa.
It's because your level of overall stress has put a cortisol burden on your body, and that raises your blood sugar because your liver stores glycogen, it stores sugar in its tissues. And when cortisol is released, it tells the liver, hey, put some sugar in the blood because there's an emergency about to happen. Our brain still thinks we're way back in, hunter-gatherer times. Our psychology is not caught up to modern times. It maybe never will, because evolution is very slow. And our brain was wired to keep us out of danger in the wild. So you have a very acute stress response. Oh, danger, run away, danger gone, stress goes down. There's a book called Zebras Don't Get Ulcers.
Of course you would know that, Andy. Of course you would know that.
We've seen the Wild Kingdom, right? Like, you see the lion and it's like hunting the gazelle or a zebra, and it finds one and it runs after it. And then there's a big chase, and it either gets the gazelle or the zebra or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, the lion tires out, the zebra runs about 30 yards away. It goes back to eating. It's not scared. It's not like you're like, what are you doing? It's just, it's not worried anymore. The stress goes down. But as humans, we don't do that. So we were very stressed out. And that creates an acidic environment in your body. Again, here now we're talking about that environment thing that I think is really important. So it creates an acidic environment. It pulls resources from your digestive system. So when you do eat, you're not actually getting all of your nutrition. It affects
is that
hormones.
Leaky gut?
Well, it can lead to leaky gut.
Okay.
Stress is a big influence on leaky gut. Number one, because the onslaught of cortisol can break down the barrier in the gut, but it can also reduce the amount of stomach acid you have that breaks down your food. So then your food starts to go down into your intestines, partially undigested. And partially undigested food can feed the bad bacteria in your gut, and then they proliferate, and then they start wreaking havoc. So that whole thing of, support your digestive system, you got to support your microbiome in that. And that's a longer conversation than we have here. But the tenets of that is really don't eat junk, kind of reduce the sugar as much as you can. If it's your anniversary, you better eat some cake, but eat lots of plant foods, lots of starches, lots of plant starches. things like squashes and sweet potatoes and plantain bananas and taro and yucca root and potatoes, all these starches that feed the healthy bacteria. Get yourself some rest. You got to sleep and create the environment that says, okay, we're doing good here, because your gut bacteria actually talk to the rest of your body and it sends signals that can affect your hormones.
Ooh.
I mean,
I
hormones, right? There's a key word for fertility. It's like,
yeah. I love that we're having this conversation, because a lot of times we get this idea, Andy, that like, here's our head and then there's our body. And like none of this shit's connected, right? Like, that, oh, I can eat this and it's not going to have an impact on that. And again, like you were saying, this isn't about scare tactics. It's more about being aware and being awake and conscious that like, I am consciously going to eat this slice of cake because it just feels good. That doesn't mean that you can't make a different choice and say, hey, I want to celebrate my anniversary with a gluten-free cake just because that feels good to me too.
Yeah.
But that goes back to a concept of when in Rome. I will
When in
never,
Rome.
but you ladies, you got to contact Andy and have him as part of your bump squad, because this man changed my life with a single idea. And that was the when in Rome idea. I would love it if you would share that with them.
Sure. There's like kind of 3 tenets. I like to put food in boxes for people. I'm not the guy. I had some people came in here, I don't know, maybe about a month ago, and for a consultation, and we just sat them down. And the guy was saying that, I just need somebody to tell me what to eat and when to eat and kind of write me out a meal plan for each week. And I had to tell him, I was like, that's not me. I'm not the guy that's going to give you a fish. I'm going to teach you how to fish. And so I like to put foods in boxes for people and guide them through the process. But the boxes are, my foundation foods. So the foundation of my diet is made up of these foods. And then there's foods that I might eat on occasion or when in Rome. And then there's foods that are not for me right now. And right now is a key term, because that doesn't mean forever either. So it's like you have your foundation foods, but then you find yourself in Rome. Well, what do? You do what the Romans do. So if you are at your wedding anniversary, have some cake, have some champagne. How many women have gotten pregnant over a drunk night? So don't tell me that alcohol, I'm not saying alcohol is a good thing, but you can't tell me that alcohol blocks pregnancy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like when in Rome, do what the Romans do. If you are in Italy, have some pasta. I'm pretty darn gluten intolerant, but if I go to Italy, I'm going to have me some pasta.
That's
and I may pay for it, I may not. If my daughter's dream is to go to Paris, and she why do you want to go to Paris? So I can have a croissant kind of thing. Aww. It's like, if you're in Paris, have a croissant. So like when you're in Rome, do what the Romans do. If you find yourself at a party, because we're starting to be able to go and see people now again, which is great. And let's say it's a friend of the family and they're from a different culture than you are, and they have all their traditional cultural foods. Well, take part in that. Because if you alienate yourself from that, then you're going to feel isolated. What happens when you feel isolated? You feel alone. What happens when you feel alone? You tell your body that there's nobody there to support you. So all your decisions, they have a downstream effect. But if you were to include yourself and consciously feel good about it, not feel guilty, but include yourself, eat some of the foods, try it out. Hey, where did this come from? What's this recipe about? Who made this? Did your grandmother pass this down? Like really get into it. Then you will be immersed in that, and you'll feel like you have some freedom around your food. And that's the idea of the kind of when in Rome. You're not in Rome every day. You're not in Rome every weekend.
Right. I even feel lighter as I'm thinking about that. Like, just that's such a weight off of our shoulders. Especially for women on this journey, we get so tangled up in this idea that if I have one thing, I'm going to throw everything off, and like you're saying, obviously use some common sense here. If you have a known allergy to a food, it's in the not for me category.
Yeah.
And you have your foundational foods, which you help women design what that is as individuals. Cause there's never, like Obviously shop in the outer perimeter, stay away from the middle aisles, and know what you're eating. But when you design, a nutrition strategy for women, you create together the foundational foods, and then you're going to know your when in Rome. But I think the most important thing that I really want these ladies listening to this, either on the replay or here live, is this idea that it can be pleasurable, it can be fun. And I love that, your philosophy toward food is one of being in the now, really, like really respecting the now and the presence.
You have a vision, you know where you're trying to go, but if you miss today, then you miss the journey. And all we have is today. My dad had a saying, and he was a tax guy, so it's kind of financial, but he said, yesterday is a canceled check, tomorrow is a promissory note, and today is all the cash you got.
Ooh, I love that.
Because really, if we don't pay attention to today, then that's your whole life. Because what you do creates your habits. Your habits are a collection of what you do. So if you're on a journey and you've been doing this for 2 years, you have created these habits. Now, let's put the scenario out there that, okay, you get pregnant, you have a child, your child comes to the world. There's a chance you're going to carry on these habits and now push them onto the environment that your child grows up in. This environment of restriction, and this environment of looking at your food like you look at a bottle of pills. And that's different. You want your children to grow up in a household of inclusion in the kitchen and freedom around your food and education around your food. So, how many people here, parents taught them how to eat? They didn't. You just basically ate the food that you got in your family, and you figured that was it. I love my mother, but she didn't teach me nutrition. She didn't know it. They didn't teach it to me in school. But we can break that chain. We can break that cycle of misinformation and start now with ourselves. And then when our children come, we include them in it. Get your kids in the kitchen as soon as you can. Put a plastic knife in their hand and let them start cutting something.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love how that brings everything kind of full circle. It's we look at preconception, we look at conception, and then healthy pregnancy, and then on into motherhood and sustaining, your health during that process. And and that's yet one of the myriad reasons why you're in my life, is because my concern, even though, my family is complete, the idea that, maintaining my own health for my son and myself so that I can be as present and, and vibrant as possible is so critical. So it really is a lifetime approach, and that for many of us, we finally wake up to on this journey. Cause I had no idea. I had no idea what my food was like.
Nor did I.
Yeah.
Nor did I. I used to be a chocolate. I used to drink a quart of chocolate milk and a king size Baby Ruth every day for lunch. That was my lunch every day. And I wondered why I had constant chronic sinus congestion and migraine headaches.
Wow. That is crazy. Well, so ladies, if you guys have any questions for Andy, go ahead and type them in the chat. And we'll get them over to him, but we're going to be wrapping this up really quick. But Andy, why don't you tell the ladies here, how they can get a hold of you, where they can find you if, they want to up their nutrition pimp game? Because at almost 48, with your guidance and being on my butt, it's just been life-changing, really taking control of my nutrition. And it's also had the ripple effect on my family. So even though my husband is still addicted to chocolate chip cookies, but
I know he's a chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah.
That's fine. But that's my little way of changing the world, is one person at a time. And it usually starts with the woman of the house kind of thing. So Everyday Nutrition is my website. It's everydaynutrition.net. And there's a lot of resources on there for people to check out. It has all my contact information. there's a little box that you can just say, contact me, and it'll send me your information. I'll reach out and do free consultations. And I coach people from right here or anywhere around the world.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great. And I see Karen has a question about thoughts on alcohol. I think we might have touched on that a little bit, but go ahead, and if
Sure.
what your thoughts are. And Tanya, we'll get on the alcohol one, and then Tanya also has a question. So we'll get to Tanya.
I think everything has positives and negatives. So I'll go through maybe some of the negatives about alcohol first, and then we'll go through the positives. Alcohol is it is ethanol, turns into ethanol in your body. It does have to be detoxed through the detoxification pathway in your liver. So you are going to pay a certain price for that. Alcohol can raise your blood sugar kind of pretty significantly, actually, especially wine and certain, like some of the harder IPAs and stuff like that. Harder alcohols like spirits aren't going to raise your blood sugar as much, and they get you there a lot faster. So that might be some kind of a switch out. They're not as fun to drink, let's say, as like a glass of champagne. Alcohol is also a depressant. So I do want people to watch why they're drinking. Like, are you drinking to escape, or are you drinking to maybe enhance something that already feels good? There's a big difference there.
I love that subtlety. That's really actually a good point.
So again, gut check yourself. Why am I doing this kind of thing? But the good parts about alcohol is a lot of people are, let's say they're introverted and they're not really good around crowds, or they're going to a party and they just don't feel comfortable around people. It can loosen you up a bit, and let
liquid courage.
Liquid courage. It just, helps you kind of enjoy yourself, and most of the time that's people that don't drink a lot. So you can have just a little, not too much and just a little bit. I always say have enough so you can enjoy the party, but not so the party's talking about you the next day.
Oh no dancing on tables, right?
Yeah, we don't want to.
But I mean, I think the bottom line with that is like, just be conscious about what it is for you.
Yeah, be conscious of what it is for you and why you're doing it. Don't drink every day. Give your body a break. It is taxing on your body to do so. You're probably better off maybe having a couple of drinks throughout the week, as opposed to like kind of cramming it in there and doing like one binge night. Because what alcohol does more than anything is it affects your sleep. So because it is a toxin, it has to be detoxified in your liver. And that detoxification happens between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning. And the enzyme that your liver produces to detoxify the alcohol is stimulating to your brain. So next time you have a night of drinking, pay attention. I bet you between 2 and 4, you're getting up, you're stirring in the bed. You're either waking up or you're stirring, or you can't go back to sleep. So it really affects your sleep, and then that has a poor cascade on it.
Okay.
So I think in general, alcohol is something that's, it's a win in Rome, and you might be able to do a little bit more than that, but I wouldn't make it a daily thing, but it does have its place.
Excellent. I love that. I hope that answered your question, Karen. And so Tanya's asking about, how do we know if we have inflammation?
Pain is, so when you bang your knee, you're like walking through a doorway and you bang your knee, you fall down, your knee starts hurting, it swells up, you have pain, you lose the mobility in the joint, you can't move it as much. That's inflammation. Inflammation is what your immune system uses to help repair things in the body. And so if you have joint pain, aches and pains in your body, if it takes a while for you to get up out of bed, if you feel puffy, like if your face feels kind of puffy, if your midsection, if your belly feels kind of bloated, and kind of extended and stuff like that, that's kind of general inflammation. It's more like, do you feel real liquid and fluid, or do you feel kind of tight and restricted in your body movement? That's kind of telling you like where you're at with your inflammation. Like, look at your hands, like in the morning, can you squeeze your hands and open them up? And it's just like free. There's like no like pressure on your knuckles and stuff like that. When you have inflammation, things like that are going to start getting affected.
Ooh, okay. I hope that helps, Tanya. And okay, Julia asked a great question about tips on healing leaky gut. Like Andy's like the leaky gut king.
Yeah, I actually love working with people with digestion, IBS and IBD and digestion problems. I talk about poop all day. So it's you have to, I mean, this is obviously a longer conversation, but quickly it's get rid of the junk out of the diet. So the sugar, processed foods, those things wreak havoc on your gut. So you got to kind of heal the gut. Most people that have leaky gut are sensitive to the glutinous grains and maybe even sensitive to other grains as well. So if you haven't tried going on a gluten-free style of eating yet, try that. Dairy can be kind of hard on some people's guts in general. Alcohol can be hard on a gut in that, but try adding some more plant foods to the diet, starches. Like we're coming into winter now, so like winter squashes, those are great soluble fibers that help to feed and nourish the gut. So soluble fibers, carrots and like parsnips, all the like the root vegetables, sweet potatoes and regular potatoes, those can help feed the good bacteria in your gut. If you have really bad leaky gut, fermentable foods might not be so good, like sauerkraut and kimchi. But if it's not that bad, they actually can be very healing. There are some good digestive protocol programs that you can get on. Typically that have like powders and they'll have glutamine in them. So you want anywhere from like 1 gram to 5 grams of L-glutamine powder, and that helps to heal the lining of the gut. So that's one thing. And then undigested proteins. So like if you're going to have protein, you got to make sure you have strong stomach acid. And again, this is
like going way in the weeds.
Yeah,
right?
We probably shouldn't be talking about this because I don't want people to be trying things without the right information.
Right.
But you got to make sure that your digestion is primo, so you can break down heavier proteins like red meat and chicken and fish and stuff like that.
Right.
So that they're not getting into the lower bowel undigested and feeding this bad bacteria.
Right.
Here's the thing. If you're gassy, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with farts. But if it's offending, then that is a sign that there's dysbiosis. There's an imbalance of bacteria. If your stools are very offending, it's a sign there's dysbiosis. It's not supposed to smell like roses, but it's not supposed to make your face turn either.
Oh my gosh, I love you, Andy. Well, so Juliet, that was probably like, that was a great place to start, but definitely check in with Andy because this is a legit problem, and getting a hold of the leaky gut is like so important. And there are, as Andy was saying, there's some really cool supplements and things like that that you can look at to address that issue. So that's a great question. Rachel, hey, Rachel is asking a question. Any nutrition advice for an underactive thyroid?
Underactive thyroid. Is this, she'll have to respond to this. Is this just hypothyroid or is this Hashimoto's hypothyroid?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I don't know. Rachel, if you're still on, love, if you have any information on that, just go ahead and type it in the chat.
I can kind of talk on both of them,
Okay.
Just in general. The thyroid, think of the thyroid as like the governor of your body. It's like the temperature gauge. It tells you kind of how fast or how slow to run. So I have seen some women that when they transition more to like a plant-based diet, so kind of like the vegan or vegetarian style, sometimes it can affect their thyroid. So adding some more maybe some animal products to the diet can kind of help to kind of jumpstart things and do that.
She says plain hypo.
Okay, cool. So it's not Hashimoto. We don't have to worry about autoimmune. So that's a whole different story. Selenium is a good product that you can take to support the thyroid, so that you can get that in a supplement form. There are different supplements out there that are like thyroid support, so you can get things that have selenium. Nuts have a lot of selenium in them, so you can like eat nuts. Though it's a great snack. It's a good way to get proteins and carbohydrate without a whole bunch of processed carbs. It's got healthy fats in it. And nuts are coming into season right now too. So nuts are a good thing to have to kind of support the thyroid on that. And then also the any seafood. So the iodine that's in algae and fish helps to support the thyroid. The thyroid needs iodine to work properly. So if you can incorporate, let's say, seaweed or some like small cold water fish like salmon or sardines or mackerel, those are going to help give you a little bit more iodine boost and help to kind of support the thyroid in that.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you. That is super thorough. Susie is asking, does nutrition help a lot with egg quality in IVF?
I think it does, again, in that environment. So to me, an egg cell is really not much different than, let's say, a skin cell or a brain cell. The structure of the cell is pretty much the same. You need a healthy cell membrane around cells, and that is built with healthy fats and good and cholesterol. And you need proteins to kind of help the structure of the cells build themselves. The cells need energy. They certainly need certain vitamins and minerals. So to me, if you are providing your body with these like kind of raw materials, then your body knows what to do. If you give it the resources, it will provide. And so give it the resources of a very nutrient dense, plant rich diet that has the least amount of toxins and processed foods in it as possible. And then it's my sense that then your body will be able to do what it wants with it. I try to encourage women to eat what I look at as like a building diet, like a diet that you're trying to build tissues. So you want growth hormone up. You want to make sure you're getting adequate protein. You want to make sure that you're getting good fats in your diet, kind of like a rich, nutrient rich building diet to, again, tell your body that there are resources on board. We're not in scarcity right now. We're in abundance. So we can get pregnant. We can go full term on a pregnancy, supply the baby with everything it needs, and rear the baby after birth. That takes a lot of resources. And if the diet is kind of scarce on resources, not very nutrient dense, or maybe it doesn't have enough protein in it, or even maybe enough fat in it, that might be telling the body something. And it might be telling the body that there's scarcity around and it's not a good time to get pregnant.
I think that's great. I love that as a building diet. I mean, that's kind of an easy, rule of thumb.
Well, imagine what is a baby? I mean, it's like it starts off like this and it grows to a human inside your body. That's like, that takes a lot of resources.
Yeah.
A ton.
No, I love
and a
that.
lot of those resources are coming out of your body.
Right.
So our body are storage, they're storage machines. Our bones is a storage facility for minerals. Our organs and muscles are storage facilities for proteins. Our fat is storage facility for energy. The baby feeds off of all that stuff. So you need to have a lot of storage on board to be able to supply the baby.
Yeah.
Because it's going to pull everything from you.
Well, and I love the way that you're saying this, Andy, because this is, since the mindset piece is like all about what what I do is like, I love the image that you just created, because that can be a really powerful and simple mindset shift that I am not in deprivation. I am feeding my baby.
Yeah.
I am preparing my body for this baby. So the changes that I am having in my diet is not about deprivation. This is all about preparation. This is all about having everything my body needs to conceive, carry, and deliver this baby. And then after that, feed my baby.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a really cool shift.
Well, no, I doubt there's a single woman on this call that's not taking a prenatal right now.
Right.
Why are you taking a prenatal? Because you're trying to prepare your body for pregnancy. Well, let's do the same thing with our diet.
Oh, I think that's brilliant. I think that's a really cool rule of thumb as well to kind of keep on board. So let's see here. Tania, there's my Tania. Love you, Tania. Says, any specific foods you recommend to most pregnant women? So like some general.
Yeah. Okay. In
ideas.
General, lots of green vegetables. Green vegetables are very nutrient dense. They have so many benefits to them. They have fibers that are going to feed your digestive system. They have polyphenols, which are that makes the green color that is going to feed your blood, help build your blood, help provide the vitamins and minerals that make things work better in your body. So lots of green vegetables. And if you are a person that eats meat, then go for like meat on the bone. So like not so much like chicken breast, but more of like a chicken thigh. Not so much a filet mignon, but like a bone-in chuck roast that's like slow cooked. So you're breaking down the collagen and all the connective tissue in the meats, because those are building blocks for what? For tissue, for babies.
Ding, ding, ding.
So you're getting, again, that building diet. So like think of the things that are going to nourish a baby, that is a growing baby. I mean, one of the most nutrient like rich foods that humans consume, at least like, culturally, is cow's milk. Well, what is cow's milk? It's breast milk. It's breast milk from a cow. It's nutrient rich because it's designed to grow a baby calf into a heifer that weighs 600 pounds in 6 months. It's super nutrient rich, and it's got a lot of like growth hormone in it, way more than like physiological, amounts of growth hormone compared to humans. That's why I typically say, breast milk of a cow is not so good for humans, but that's what it is. And so we want to put those things in your body. So lots of green vegetables, lots of nutrient rich and dense meats on the bone. Fish is a really good thing. Small cold water fish, not like, like tuna and the bigger fishes, and not farm raised fish. We're just talking about wild fish here. And then the starches, all those good like plant starches that are going to feed your body, nourish you, help you feel warm inside, help give your body energy and a good source of carbohydrate. So again, it's like the kind of a building diet for that. If you can tolerate eggs, a good like pasture raised egg from like a local farmer chicken is one of the best things you can eat.
With bright orange yolk.
Oh yeah, that like stands up in the white. It's like much different. And if you can tolerate a little bit of dairy, some Kerrygold butter.
Ladies, you got to know that this is something that, I mean, butter. Andy knows how much I love butter. I like equal parts of butter and whatever conveyor like it is that, bread, when I used to eat bread, was just a conduit for the butter.
For the butter, yeah.
You'll see me gnawing on a stick of butter.
Yeah, so you got to be able to talk, dairy should not mess with you in any sense of the form. If it does, you got to watch, you have a certain tolerance level, and butter is on the least hypoallergenic for all dairy foods. And maybe you could just go to some ghee if you can't do butter, but it's very rich, nutrient dense. It has good fats in it. It has a lot of butyrate in it. It has a lot of vitamin A from the cows eating grass kind of thing. And then if you're going to eat animal products, eat animals that were eating their natural diet as close as possible. So the grass-fed cow is a different cow than a grain-fed cow. A chicken fed a vegetarian diet is different than a pasture-raised chicken. A farm-raised salmon is different than a wild salmon. We don't want to eat food that is unhealthy. We want to eat food that is healthy so we can be healthy.
Right. That makes perfect sense. I hope that answered your question, Tania. You and Tanya, all of you guys are having these really great questions. Okay, there was one, I didn't see it here. It says, what do you do when you see your husband eat junk? It happens to me. I am the one pulling him away. He doesn't get it as much as me. So, Andy, what do you do when your partner is not on board with all of this building diet and eating clean and all that?
Yeah, when my husband is eating junk, no, I'm just kidding. It's not their journey.
Yeah. Don't do their math.
Nope.
Don't do their math.
Leave them alone. That's a grown man. Let them do what they're going to do. You're not here to change them. You're here to change you and be the change you want to see in them.
Yeah.
So if they want to get on board, they'll get on board, but don't try to force them to do so. Just like, you're not going to take chocolate chips away from Brandon.
Oh no. Oh no, I knew
you
that.
know?
I knew that when we got married, that this man is, might choose the chocolate chips over me at some point.
Well, imagine like what that would, I mean, something as simple as that can cause like a riff
Yeah.
kind
Oh
of thing.
yeah.
And
Well,
so that, you know, before we jumped on this, I was kind of writing some notes that I wanted to, kind of go over. And one big one is connection. Like, a loving connection with your partner, with your husband. I mean, that's a lot of times that might be forgotten, because again, it can get kind of mechanical. Okay, we're ovulating. Come on, let's go. It's like, let's do this thing. You got to have this loving connection and this bond with your partner.
right.
And if each of this persons are trying to change the other one, then that's going to cause some stress. So let them do what they're doing, kind of thing. And then they're going to see what you're doing. We're not there. They're not there to do what you're going to do, but they are there and they should be there to support one another.
Right. Right. So maybe it's a different take on it. Bright Star, that it's not so much that, come from the perspective, and that's what I wrote my second book on, was relationships. And this journey was the idea that we as women are the keepers of our relationships. We get to set the example. We tell our partner what really matters to us, and it's ultimately up to them to, to make a decision as grown people to, what they're going to do. We can't do the work for them. And then we ended up, it just doesn't work. And so I always liked, I always ate very different, as you all know, from my husband. And so I just, I set the example, and slowly but surely he came around. He didn't come around from me nagging him. He came around because he saw the result in me and the impact it had on me and the way that I was living. And he certainly wanted to be a part of that. So he eventually jumped on board for the most part, but I also didn't expect perfection from him.
Sure.
I knew what I was getting into, that, it's really, it's a process.
It is. And one more thing I wanted to bring up is a lot of times, you can feel alienated because you're cooking double meals. Like if you happen to be the person who's doing most of the cooking in the house, you're cooking a meal for you. You're cooking a meal for your husband. If you already have kids, you might be cooking, like cooking 3 different meals. So I try in my practice to kind of put that together as much as possible to one meal. So it reduces the time in the kitchen and everybody's kind of getting what they want. And so that's where like the fun part of my job is, because I look and say, okay, we got this box and we got this box and we got to put them together. And how can we do that in a healthy way to where it's reducing the work? I don't want people to spend more time than they need to in the kitchen.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Andy. And you want to throw out your details one more time? Because I think this is going to, this is a huge wake up call for a lot of ladies, and, they would be so happy having you on their team. So
sure. It's everydaynutrition.net. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Go on the website. You can see all of my resources there. There's a way to get a hold of me, and we'll have fun. We'll talk. We get to talk food. That's what I like to do all day.
And I love it. Oh, your Instagram's good too. You always post like the cool shit that you're cooking, which I love. So it's
just the stuff that I did. That comes out of my house. I haven't done it for a long time. I have like 500 posts on there, but I was thinking about maybe starting, because I just remodeled my kitchen, doing some video stuff.
That's great. Great. Well, you guys go follow Andy at 24/7 nutrition on Instagram.
247 health.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. 247 health. So
247 health.
Well, thank you so much, Andy.
Thank you, Rosanne.
Dropping bombs like normal, and I would expect nothing less. And so go have an amazing weekend. To all of you ladies, and to those of you listening on the replay, you can get out of the overwhelm of this fertility diet stuff. You can make it fun. I'm living proof. Andy's living proof. It's great. So have an amazing day, ladies. And thank you very much, Andy.
We'll see you.
All right.